hello. Welcome to another episode of A Seat at the Table, hosted by yours truly, Karl Singleton. Of course, as you know, here at A Seat at the Table, we pride ourselves on bringing decision makers or those with connections to those decision makers here so that our audience can gain firsthand knowledge to make sure that we are sure what the resources are out there to meet the needs of our community. And it takes no real introduction to introduce my guest for this evening, who is definitely a decision maker in more ways than one, the Honorable Judge Royce Morris, Dauphin County Judge. Welcome to a seat at the table.
Thank you for inviting me. It's my pleasure to be here and enjoy this opportunity to speak to you and to your audience.
Thank you, of course. And so, of course, this is your first time in the studio, not your first time on the program. We've StreamYarded in a few times and things, but it's always we could start in various ways in terms of your body of work, in the Harrisburg community, in the state of Pennsylvania, et cetera. But it always, struck me as important and the realness about you in terms of how you remain committed to the community, whether that was, in the PD's office, as a defense attorney, et cetera. So if you just talk a little bit about for those young people that may be watching, at least we know one that's watching on his way to practice.
Absolutely.
Maybe how to influence how your life was pushed towards law in the legal field.
Yeah. Well, it was a long journey. I just put it that way. But my first job to get into ancient history was when I was about 9 or 10 years old. I was picking tomatoes and cucumbers in the fields with my grandfather, who was a sharecropper. But at the time, I didn't know he was a sharecropper. He drove a fertilizer truck in Virginia, and he would fertilize for other farmers, and then he would have workers who would pick in the fields that he was sharecropping in. And I didn't even realize that what he was doing until I was older and understood that that's what we were involved in. And we would pick tomatoes and cucumbers. We'd get like 35 cents a basket. And it was there that I learned my work ethic. We had we called them geechies, but they were really migrant workers that would travel up the East Coast and pick various vegetables and fruits as you go up the east from Florida on up. And I would see how they would work and how committed they were, because that was their livelihood. Yeah. That was all they were going to get. I would go back up north and I would, have a mother and father who took care of me and all those types of things. But just seeing that work ethic is sort of one of the things that I remember at a very young age, sort of motivated me to want to work hard and want to do better. And so, that was my first experience. So when you say, you became a lawyer, you went to law school, there's always something before that. Everybody has a story before that. And that's sort of my story, just seeing how hard my grandfather worked, and he passed away early. And then after that, seeing how hard my grandmother worked, and then seeing that in my parents and how hard they worked. Neither one of them graduated from high school the conventional way. My mother got her GED, but I was old enough. I was in high school by the time she was able to get her GED, and my father never got his diploma. So, they valued education, and they pushed us and motivated us towards being educated. And I sort of tell that story because it comes before all that other stuff.
Right, agreed.
Because unless you have that foundation, you're not going to be successful. You're not going to be able to really make it and understand it. And, when I see folks who are trying to make it and are coming from rough circumstances, I think I understand, where they're coming from because of where I came from. One of the things I remember was, my grandfather, his house was the first house in the area that had plumbing. So even though he didn't have a lot of money, he let people come into his house. His was the first house that had a phone. And so people would come into his house.
What year was this?
We're talking about in the 70s.
Yeah.
And so people would come in and use his phone and then take a trip to the bathroom.
I got you.
Because he was the first one that had those things in this rural community in Virginia. And my grandmother's house was the gathering place. You didn't leave anybody behind. The community was sort of raised through you.
That's right.
And that's how my grandmother valued things. And that's the kind of sort of background that I come from. They said, never come to a place and leave it worse than when you got there.
Right.
So you always want to make it better. Yeah. So when I came to Harrisburg, it was my motivation to not be here and not try to make it better.
Right.
So that's sort of the way back, the way back background.
So speaking of way back, how'd you get to Harrisburg?
My lovely wife, the Dr. Celeste Morris, Singleton girl, but Harrisburg.
We won't hold that against her. We won't hold that East
Harrisburg, Singleton. We met in undergrad at Temple University, and she was right about a lot. And one thing that she was definitely right about is this is a great place to raise a family. I raised my sons here. They were successful here. And the community is a great community, and there's a lot of promise and a lot of potential. And that's why I think it's natural for me to want to try to sow into this community, because there's so much talent here in this community.
Agreed. And so you were talking about foundation and the importance of foundation, not only for you, but you see young people today. You have background in coaching, volunteerism, and doing various volunteer work throughout the community historically for well over 25 years, going on 30 months, I say 30 years, at this point.
You can say
I'll say that. This is your interview. So with regards to your body of work, you see a lot of young people, male and female. And what is it like to have matriculated through various roles in the legal system, a defense attorney now as a judge, PD's office, public defender's offices, et cetera. And of course, we can't forget about Mr. Katzman. We always highlight, Mr. Ron Katzman. What is it like to be in a position now, seeing some of those same faces, not on the negative side, but on the positive side, or those that quote unquote got it in terms of needing to have a solid, positive foundation, and then coming back and seeing you where you are and then where they've grown to as well?
Well, the one thing that I really enjoyed about being a lawyer and actually doing criminal defense work is that seeing the people that came through the system and then never came back,
right?
That had that opportunity where you were able to help them, and when you helped them with that criminal situation they had, to not see them again, and to see them again in a positive light, where they're being successful, where they put this negative stuff behind them. And there's a lot of those stories. I mean, we only hear about the repeat offenders. We only hear about the people that we see all the time, but there's a number of people who have come through the system, bettered themselves, educated themselves, and moved on. So, I mean, there's a lot of good that I've seen throughout my career. And just for the people out there that I went to undergrad at Temple University. I went to law school at the University of Maryland, graduated from the University of Maryland, took the bar, came to Harrisburg, worked at the public defender's office, tried all kinds of serious felonies and murders and capital cases, and worked for a period of time at a firm called Robinson Giraldo, where I did some family law there and some other things while I was there. Went back to the public defender's office as a chief deputy and tried their very serious homicide cases. And then I was recruited by Goldberg Katzman. And actually at the time, there were several firms that were looking to hire someone who looked like me, an African-American attorney who had trial skills. And I'm telling this story because I'm going to get somewhere with it. And then I went to Goldberg Katzman. I went to Goldberg Katzman because my wife's aunt, who grew up in this area, Geneva Lee, said that the Goldbergs were the only people that would represent Black people back in the day, white lawyers that would represent Black people back in the day. So when the firm came to me it was like God was sending them to me,
That's
because I wanted to do criminal defense. I didn't want to, all the other offers were to do this civil stuff and litigate here, litigate there. But I wanted to do criminal defense. I wanted to be paid, compensated well for it, but I wanted to do criminal defense. They gave me that opportunity to keep doing what I love doing, and also make a decent living doing it. And it was guys like Ron Katzman, and Jerry Russo, Tom Weber, Tom Brenner, a number of folks that were at that firm who had, impeccable character, apart from being excellent lawyers. And so Steve Grubb is another one. And so it was people that, you know, uh, did not frown upon the people that I was having walk in the door, because my clients were black and brown when I started. They became a lot less black and brown, and more of a rainbow, as I developed and got better skills, as an attorney. And, people would come to you because they wanted to win, or they wanted someone who would be successful with their case. And so, I say all that to say, and I use this Jay-Z lyric, that
shout out to Jay-Z.
He did in the Kanye's Diamonds. He says, "I'm not a businessman. I'm a businessman." And so that's what I discovered about who we are as people when we come into any kind of profession. It is not, I never worked for the public defender's office. I worked for Royce Morris as a lawyer because I had a desire to be a good lawyer. So I was employed there, but I was working for the brand of Royce Morris. I was employed at Robinson Geraldo, but I wasn't working for Robinson Geraldo. I was working for Royce Morris. I was building my brand. When I went to Goldberg Katzman, I wasn't working for Goldberg Katzman. I was building my brand. I was Royce Morris. And so, later in my career, there were a lot of people who didn't even know what law firm I worked for, because when they called for Royce Morris. And when I talk to young people, I try to let them know that you're not a businessman, no matter what business you're in. You're a business, and you have to build your brand. You have to be the person that you want people to say, "I want him. I want to go to him. I want to be him. I want him to sell my house. I want him to fix my car. I want him to repair my air conditioning." Whatever your profession is, you want to be that guy that they say, let me pick up the phone and call this guy. You could be working for any number of businesses, but I want this guy. And if you build your brand and you do that successfully, then it transcends every career and every opportunity. And we see it across all types of employment and opportunity. If you build your brand, people will come to you. You could be in a 500-person law firm, or you could be in a 2-person law firm. If you build your brand, people are going to come to you.
And that's the difference between, as they say, customer service brings them in, customer satisfaction brings them back.
Absolutely.
So on that note, what we'll do is we'll take a quick commercial break. On the other side is on the other side of this commercial, we'll continue our conversation with the Honorable Dauphin County Judge Royce Morris. All right, hello and welcome back again. We are here with the Honorable Judge Royce Morris here to seat at the table. We'll continue our conversation and transition a bit. We talking about the foundation that from which your trajectory has grown from in the early stages of your career in the law. Of course, your family and meeting your lovely wife, Dr. Celeste Overton Morris, to of course your kids. But there's another part. There's been addition to the family.
Yeah, got a new grandbaby, Royce Harmony, my first grandchild. It makes you understand legacy. So a beautiful granddaughter. I couldn't be more pleased. My son and his wife did an excellent job, and we are thrilled.
All right. And so along with family comes faith. And I know you're a man of great faith. Absolutely. And belief. And that has been something that, honestly, you see your faith and not just hear about your faith. I mean, those of us that are onlookers to you, and some people like myself that look up to you and have been fortunate enough to be mentored by you. So let's talk about faith and what that's meant to you, and how that keeps you on the trajectory, as we said earlier, as you move forward throughout your many accomplishments and those that are still yet to come.
Well, I'm just going to be very candid. I had some very dynamic women in my life. First being my grandmother. Uh, I remember, and I shared this story with my wife. I remember being a kid and my grandmom had 18 children, 10 of which made it to adulthood to procreate and have many grandchildren for her. But I remember her praying and calling out every grandchild's name and their parents. And first of all, I couldn't remember all of them. I had to, but she would call out each name, get down on her knees and pray. She was old school. So when there was thunder and lightning, what happened? The lights went out. You couldn't say a word. Everybody had to be quiet. Don't move, because God is talking. She was old school like that. So, but that faith was a strong force on both sides of my family. My mother, she, like I said, didn't graduate traditional high school, but did get her GED. She's the most well-read person I know, and the Bible did a lot of that. She teaches she's 83 and she teaches a senior Bible study to this day.
No, you're not laughing. Wait, you're not laughing. I'll send her this tape now.
Walks 2 miles. Just a dynamic woman. And then, of course, my wife is a prayer warrior as well. Faith has just been a huge part. My father was a man of faith as well. Don't get me wrong, but women just know how to bring that power down from heaven.
Yeah.
But God has been extremely good to me. I take nothing for granted, and I've said this before on programs and panels before. One of the things that I think made me a good lawyer was, especially in the criminal defense area, is when I looked across the table at a young man or a young woman that I was going to represent, I could see myself. I could see I'm an imperfect being that is only made perfect through Jesus Christ, and I understood that, I can appreciate that all those mistakes and flaws in that other person are the same things that could come out of me if I wasn't at the stage that I am in my faith and my belief. So, it made me a very good advocate because I could put myself in their shoes. And one of the things I was able to do, I think, successfully was to be that sort of translator of, here's a live, breathing human being who's struggling, but this is who he is and who she is. And you need to hear their story so that you can make the right choice and not the easy or convenient choice. And I think that comes from my faith, being able to see the wretchedness of my soul and not judge or look down on other people, no matter what their circumstances are. And you see it in a lot of professions, and in law is no different, where people put themselves above the people that they serve. And when you put yourself above the people that you serve, you can't really be serving them well.
That's right.
If you're at the soup kitchen and you can't imagine getting a bowl of soup yourself because you're hungry, or appreciate what hunger is like, then you're not going to be the best server at the soup kitchen. So, I think that's one of the things I was able to do. I was able to see the wretchedness of my life.
So that piece with regards to the just slide your mic up a little bit. Okay. That piece that you're nailing is the empathy and compassion. How do you strike that delicate balance in your current position, in the elected position of judge, a man of faith, but still maintaining that empathy and compassion as a defense attorney, as an individual that's serving soup at a soup kitchen? I mean, we can all, in a way, put ourselves in those shoes if we choose to. There's almost an understanding that you have to be this person, and you tell me, because I've never been on that side of the bench or the other side of the bench either, for that matter. Yes, I have. But anyway, I have. Strike that.
Strike that.
Strike that. But how is it where as a fellow human being, you are assigned to almost judge without passing judgment, by still maintaining empathy and compassion and all those characteristics that you embody, but seeing yourself in that person that's before you. Maybe he or she is uh, hit a hit a hit a spot that you've never been at before,
Yeah.
but you have to understand, you know, their shortcomings, but at the same time, you have law that you're instructed to follow in order to make a decision. We won't say judge, but make a decision
Yeah.
on the case at hand. How does that
Yeah.
work for you?
Well, so
Loaded question, but it's like, yeah.
no. It's actually an easy question because it's something that I practiced.
Mm.
When I was a lawyer, after every jury trial, I would pray for justice. I say,
Mhm.
Lord, whatever a just outcome is, that's what I'm willing to accept.
Gotcha.
Now, I won quite a few more than I lost, but if I lost, I didn't feel bad.
Right.
If I won and everybody out there thought that the person was guilty,
Mhm.
I didn't feel bad either.
Mhm.
I lost not one drop of sleep.
Mhm.
Well, that's the same way I approach this job. You know, I'm I try to stay prayed up,
Mhm.
and when I go out there to do what it is that I do, I know that God ultimately is in charge. I follow the law. I listen to the case. I apply my reasoning, but ultimately, I don't control the outcome, even if I think I do.
Gotcha.
So it's uh, very low pressure for me
Mm.
in terms of creating stress or anything like that.
Mhm.
I try to be fair. I try to be respectful to everybody that comes in front of me. I try to listen. I try to let people be heard
Mhm.
because at the end of the day, when somebody comes into your courtroom, all they want to do is be heard, and they want to get the outcome they want. But if they're not heard, that's a worse outcome than if they're heard and you rule against them.
Mhm.
So I try to hear people. I'm not perfect. I'm sure I don't get it right every day, but I get it right or try to get it right more days than not.
Mhm.
Um, you know, uh, these are hard decisions. I'm in the family court now, so I'm dealing with
Mm.
people's children.
Yeah.
I'm dealing with people who have addiction. Uh, and just because you're addicted doesn't mean you can't be a good parent. But I have to, decide what's in the best interest of that child.
Right.
And you could have a prior criminal history. You could, be going through a changing your gender.
Mhm.
All those different things could be happening, and I still have to be balanced and consider what's in the best interest of the child. And so uh, at the end of the day, I try to be fair, try to listen, try to hear people out, and the rest is not up to me.
So speaking of that family piece, being where you are now in family court, you've probably seen generations of families,
Yeah,
now.
yeah, absolutely.
And well, you tell me, I'm not going to say I'm sure, but you've been in this community for,
Mhm.
going on, 3 decades.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so I'm sure you've come across some that you're saying, oh, not that last name again, or others
Yeah.
that you're saying, I'm shocked to see you here,
Yeah. Absolutely.
and you're still in the community, quite frankly,
Absolutely.
and so it's not as if, people who
Absolutely.
don't know who you are. So what is it like, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at, to be in this current position, but while still engaging and interacting as you said, the business man, in terms of your brand, because your name speaks for itself in terms of Royce Morris, whether, to your point earlier, whether it was the DA's office, or one of the law firms, and or now as judge, people still talk about Royce Morris, the coach. They talk about Royce Morris, the person who they get, used to get free legal advice from as a defense attorney when he goes to the barbershop, even if you try to sneak in the side door. So what is it like with this position now, and how do you balance that?
Well, so I'm Royce Morris. I'm not Judge Morris. Um, when I'm dealing with people, and it's not in the courtroom,
Mhm.
I'm not hung up on that title, and I'm not hung up on uh, disconnecting from who I am as a person
That's right.
and becoming something other than who I am. So, I mean, there. I mean, and you know, you've been around long enough to know that there are certain people who the position begins to take over, and the person begins to diminish. That's not who I am, and that's not who I'll ever be. So, the way that I balance is, I you know this. I keep connected to the community as best I can. I try to uh, do things for people. I try to use my position to help people and position them. I don't want to be a one trick pony, as they say.
Mhm.
I want somebody to come up after me. I want to be
Very
able
good.
to you know, and you know this from speaking with me, but I try to mentor, and there are a group of young lawyers who are African American lawyers who I try to sew into, who I try to mentor, and it does no good for there to be a Clarence Morrison without a Royce Morris,
Mhm.
and it does no good for there to be a Royce Morris without a, and you fill in the blank.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So I, that's what sort of motivates me to stay connected,
Mhm.
um, because I know there's somebody
Mhm.
that's never seen me,
Right.
and never seen the potential that someone would. And I'll tell you this story. There was a brother that I cut grass with when I was young,
Mhm.
and he could have been the best lawyer, uh, but opportunity didn't present itself to him. He had all the skills and all the tools, and I see people in my courtroom every day who I believe he could run circles around as a lawyer,
Right.
but he didn't get a chance to see that. I mean, I wasn't on my trajectory when we worked
Mhm.
together, and he wasn't exposed to that,
Right. Exposure.
and so he had no ability to connect what that could have been in his life. But looking back, I could
Mhm.
see all the potential in him. And there's many young people that I see um, that have that great potential.
Mhm.
And you and I, we've talked
Yeah.
about a few. We've run down on a few
Yeah.
to try to help them.
Right.
And I'm not going to name any names, but I had a young man that we tried to help recently,
Mhm.
and it didn't work,
Right.
but we tried.
Right.
And he had great potential. He could have put himself in a position where he could have changed not only his future but his family's future.
Right.
But he got trapped in a cycle, and uh, it didn't work.
Yeah.
But we tried,
Right.
and so that's what I'm motivated to do, and that some of that has to happen outside the courtroom,
Right.
as you know, and I'm not going to stop trying
Right.
because for that one that we lost, we might gain one,
Mhm.
and to me that's worth it.
That's right. That balance. There's also a piece when you're talking about making sure, there's a judge, Clarence Morrison, and then there's a Judge Morris, and then you had started to build. And I'm not sure you're still your summer internship
Yeah.
program that you're doing.
Oh
Talk
yeah.
about that a bit.
Yeah. We
I don't
we
want to butcher it up.
and
I just
I'm not going to claim this.
yeah.
There were the Equal Employment Opportunity Committee of the Dauphin County Bar. Dave Lehman is the gentleman's name who actually started
Okay.
the camp program. A very good lawyer for years here in Harrisburg, um, and Dave and a group of people. Jim Rowland was one of them.
Hmm.
Worked hard to put together, uh, something to try to get minorities involved in the legal uh, community in Harrisburg, um, in Dauphin County, and it's been tough. I mean, there are a lot of better places you could go if you are looking for the big city,
Hmm.
if you're looking for the big money and the glitz. But we have been successful in that program. It's the Capital Area Managing Partners Diversity Initiative. Uh, and Latoya Bellamy now is chairing that committee, and I'm very proud of her. She's done an excellent job of keeping that going. And we bring in first-year law students and give them exposure to the Harrisburg legal community. And we have a nice group of alumni who are, Black and brown students that would have normally left this area, that have stayed in this area and joined the legal profession in this area. So that was a very good program that the bar put together. And I chaired it for several years after Dave Lehman retired, and now Latoya is chairing that.
See, I just gave you the whole program. See there? Shout out to my man. I just gave him the whole program.
And so that's
I only learned about it when you was chairing it. Now
Yep.
I know Latoya Bellamy,
Yep.
of course. Shout out
Latoya.
to Latoya and Shannon. Shannon was one of my old students.
Yep. So now that's a program that we're going to hopefully keep for years. And for every person who comes into that program who goes somewhere else, you're still planting a seed. Remember how to reach back and how to provide support for people that look like you and come from diverse backgrounds. So that's sort of what I think that program does, and what we should be doing as lawyers of color. We should be trying to reach out.
You got a shout out here from Ms. Tasha Williams. I'm grateful to have participated in the camp program and learned under Judge Morris when he was a shareholder at Goldberg Katzman.
Oh,
and of course, Latasha Williams, she was a guest on the show last week.
Thank you, Latasha. Appreciate that.
So I just wanted to shout that out. It came up on the screen. So now what we'll do is we'll take another quick commercial break. And on the other side of this, we'll continue our dialogue with the Honorable Judge Royce Morris. Again, we are here with the Honorable Judge Royce Morris, continuing our conversation about faith, family, and then I want to transition into courage. We were talking earlier about clearly understanding who you are and whose you are, and ensuring that any positions that you're in or have been in and maybe in the future, you want to make sure that you're in those positions to empower the position in order to help people, as opposed to being empowered by the position and be self-serving. So that leads me to a question, especially when you're dealing with elected positions and or just in the community or serving as a whole overall. What type of courage did you have to exemplify throughout your years when faced with some challenges, we'll say, for lack of better terms? I mean, have there been courageous stances that you've had to take? And if so, I'm sure there has been. What were they? What sticks out to you?
Well, I'm going to start the story this way. Lenora Smith, who was a much respected lawyer in this town for a number of years, when I first came to this town, they had litigated a case against the then Mayor Stephen Reed for the purchase of the senators, which wound up being great for the city. However, it was illegal at the time. And Lenora and several council members took a stand against that illegal move. And they lost initially, but ultimately the court determined that they were right years later, after the senators had already been purchased and there was nothing that could be done to stop that. And when I came to town and when I was sort of able to get into a law firm, one of the things that I was known for is not falling in line with the then Mayor Reed's program and agenda, and challenging some of the illegal actions that he took during his administration. And in hindsight, people were able to see after the exposure of many of these things, forensic audits and other things, that they were illegal and improper. But because of the nature of the political climate around the city, nobody was willing to litigate those matters against Mayor Stephen Reed. And I was blessed that I had a firm that supported me. And when we litigated those matters, um, the takeover of the Harrisburg School District is one that comes to mind. There were a number of them. The challenging of the members who were appointed by council to the board of the Harrisburg Authority. Many challenges against city council over the years that we were involved in. Um, it was the right thing to do. And it was, speaking truth to power in a way that could affect your bottom line if you were a firm in the city that wanted to make money. Mayor Reed had some very long tentacles, even into county government. But the more that we fought, and this is the moral to that story, the more that we fought, the bigger my reputation grew personally, which led to more money for the firm, which led to more clients. Uh, you know, the publicity that it generated, though it was negative in a lot of respects. We were accused of stealing money from the Harrisburg School District, and when we pointed out that the firm that was there before us billed 4 times what we billed in a year, but the paper would not report it as such. That was some hits that we took, but we weren't afraid. And when I'm saying we, I'm saying we because I had a very strong group of men and women who were behind me in my law firm who didn't back away and say, "Don't do that, Royce. You're going to make us look bad. You're going to cost us." And Joshua Locke was also someone who, during the time, was a very fine lawyer, probably one of the best criminal defense lawyers in the country, in my opinion, was personally lost a position with the city when we were fighting against Mayor Reed over various issues. And, he never, he didn't take it and take offense to it. He rallied behind me, one of my biggest supporters. So, that's what I learned about men of courage. They're willing to take the slings and arrows and hang in there and do what they know is right, even in the face of real power.
That's funny you bring up Attorney Locke because I thought about him during Sunday sermon. My pastor was talking about 12 stones was crossing the river. And I remember him giving me the book title 12 Smooth Stones.
Okay.
That's funny that
right.
you just brought him up. So shout out to Attorney Locke if you're out there watching or if you watch us on rerun. We're still we're still thinking about you and appreciative of you. But that, we laugh, but and for the young people out there that are, and I always continue to talk about the younger generation that's coming up, behind us to stay the course and something that you've always said to me, not to waver and doing right, even though it may seem daunting. The arc of the moral universe. What?
I know I gave you that one.
The arc of the moral universe is long,
but
it bends towards justice. And it has been long, especially through some of those things, when you were offering myself as school board members, because God bless her soul, Lenora Smith, and Goldberg Katzman, Mr. Katzman, Ron Katzman, and yourself. That was long, and it was hard. And we did not again, get the outcome that we wanted when we wanted it. However, we were ultimately vindicated. And so shout out to, of course, Shirley Jackson, Kia Hansard, and Liz Wilson, who were 3 sisters that were fighting for this community when a lot of people turned their backs, aside from those 3 that I just named in the legal field. So again, I know firsthand about that long arc of the moral universe, but it doesn't appear to be that long when you have great people supporting you and leading you with fidelity, character, and integrity. And so, of course, the 3 of you, showed us the way from which we could never pay that debt back, but for passing it forward, and raising up others or being there for others if and or when trials and tribulations come their way. So I once again, am thankful, and I'm sure the ladies echo my sentiments in terms of being thankful for the three of you. God rest Lenore Smith and Ron Castman. So as they look down upon us, but you're still here, and so we, want to give you your roses while you're still here and doing what's right as opposed to convenient. And so having you on a platform like this, of course, is mutually beneficial because yeah, we get to show the types of guests that we have, but for you, people need to know, what you do, how you've done it, and that to your earlier point, it didn't come with three-piece suits and a gavel. It came with picking tomatoes and cucumbers, as a baseline, and remain keeps you humble, uh, faith and courage in that order, as we always say. But you are, a man, as I say, beyond reproach, a man's man, and I want you to, for those young people that are out there aspiring, because someone inspired you. You are an inspiration to both young and old. What do you say to the public, the community that is looking to you? Sometimes unfairly, because you're a brother in that position, in a position, and sometimes the expectations could be overwhelming. How do you balance that?
Well, it we I think we do young people a disservice when we don't give them the reality of it. And the reality of it is that it comes with a price. It comes with hard work. It comes with uh, you know pushing through. But anybody can do it. You can commit to doing it, and you can do it. Um, and it's not going to be handed to you, uh, but you can persevere and fight through anything that you set your mind to. So I don't want to suggest to anyone that's an easy road. Success is not an easy road. It's something that you have to uh, strive towards. And so when I talk to young people, I I want them to know that there's nothing you can't accomplish if you work for it, put in the effort for it. And that's sort of how you get to where you want to be. It's easy to not work hard. It's hard to work hard. That's why they call it hard work. Uh, but if you put in the hard work, you will always get the results. And that's my advice to anybody in any area, any endeavor. Put in the hard work, and you'll get the results. And that's what it's all about.
So we have a question here for you from Mr. Mitchell Bailey. He wants to know, how does Judge Morris feel about the lack of representation at the Superior Court level?
Well, we have Diane Nichols. So we have one African American sister on the court. Um, and, the hope is that we'll have people in the pipeline that will seek those types of positions. I'm a trial judge, so I don't aspire to anything like that. I have a hard time sitting down here with Karl talking for an hour. So I like to.
So we taking commercial breaks, man. We get a full hour.
I like to be on the move, and I can't see myself doing something like that. But there are, intelligent, articulate, qualified folks who I think would be well suited for that position that look like me. And so we hope to see people like that aspire to that position.
You bring the question back up again. So, was you now? This dude's probably been stalking the show forever, but he never posts anything. But so I'll paraphrase if you can't bring it back up again. The Kendrick. No, okay. Well, he was sending you a shout out. The next one, he was sending you a shout out about from coaching together through helping him through a couple situations. Okay, so from coaching together, helping me with a couple situations, and even just your words of wisdom. I truly appreciate the Honorable Judge Morris, Coach Morris, and for just being Royce, a friend. Thank you, good brother.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So it's things like, so make sure he's cooking tonight, because he always he's having the cookouts with porch and all that stuff. But no, but that, in a nutshell, sums it up. What Kendrick Lewis has stated there, that is echoed throughout the community, throughout the county. White, black, male, female, indifferent, whoever, people that's been indifferent with you, ultimately, will come around, and just understand clearly that you did what was right, not what was convenient, and or you always maintain that balance.
And let me bring that full circle.
Oh yeah.
As many battles as I had with Mayor Reed prior to his passing, we would break bread on a regular basis, probably every 6 months, and the respect that he had for me, I think, spoke volumes to the fact that he understood that there needs to be a watchman on the tower. And if you're not willing to be the watchman on the tower, then get out of the way. But
right.
there needs to be one.
Yeah.
So I think for anybody out there who's challenged with something where the right thing to do, but everybody else is pushing the wrong thing, do the right thing, and the results will fall in line. You might take an initial hit because everybody's promoting or doing the wrong thing,
right.
But you'll get past that, and ultimately later on, life will turn out better, and people will speak more highly of your character, that you did that even under circumstances where other people wouldn't.
That sounds very similar to ensuring that you embrace long-term gratification over short-term gratification.
Absolutely.
And so that's for all of our young and our more seasoned individuals out there that are faced with challenging circumstances, we'll say. So with that, our time is winding down. Of course, for this segment with you, you always know you have an open invitation. This platform allows us to engage individuals like yourself in a balanced way to get topics and discussions that are hot and heavy, in particular in the Black and Brown community, urban communities overall, which is our targeted population, to really get some insight into what it's like for people that are in positions of perceived power and truly powerful positions, and to make sure that we know we have access to you, to others, elected officials and others, not only when you all are running for office, but in terms of your times, your duration of service. And so with that being said, I can't thank you enough.
Yep. And hold us accountable, not just me, but every elected official. Hold us accountable. It's a public courthouse, so come down. If I'm talking crazy, you're not there, you can't tell. So hold us accountable. So that's my last words. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Mr. Singleton. I appreciate you for being a voice for the community. I appreciate the brothers opening this up for a seat at the table, and all the guests you've had, and the respect that you've garnered through this show is very much appreciated.
I'm thanking you for being a part of it and for helping and continue to encourage me to keep doing what's right as opposed to what's convenient and facing those challenges head on. So I appreciate you. And with that, we are going to end this segment, but on the other side of this commercial, we will be joined by Mr. Anthony Moore and Fred Walker out of York, Pennsylvania, by way of various places, as you'll find out when we begin the next segment. But they are not only businessmen, entrepreneurs in the York area, and we'll say central Pennsylvania area, but they are also minority owners of the York Revolution semi-pro baseball team. So on the other side of this commercial, we will be joined in our second segment with our guests. Thank you, and continue to watch. And of course, thank you, Judge Morris, again for joining us. Hello. And again, welcome to our second segment. As we transition, we're going to talk with two brothers, two business owners down in the York, Pennsylvania area, Mr. Anthony Moore and Mr. Fred Walker. Not only are they entrepreneurs, business entrepreneurs, and good brothers that are revitalizing the community in the York area, but they are also minority owners of the York Revolution baseball team down there. So, Brother Moore, Anthony Moore, and Brother Fred Walker, welcome to a seat at the table, good brothers.
We feeling good right now. We feeling good.
This is official in here.
Hey, well, shout out to the guys who really run things. I just get to sit in front of the camera.
I told Anthony those are two behind the scenes guys for Harrisburg. So definitely, man, we appreciate
You go. Yeah. So let's just start off general conversation. You know, as we talked about, talk first about your backgrounds individually.
Well, I'm Anthony Moore. I was born in North Carolina. It's my second stint up here in Pennsylvania. Moved around a lot for work. Lived in 8 states. Lived in England for 2 years. Lived in Canada for 2 years. And met this dude back in 2016 when I first moved to York from Canada for work. And we pretty much hit it off since then.
I'm Fred Walker, originally from Philadelphia. Went into the military for about 10 years. Taught at Howard University, political and military science for a couple years, and then I made my way back up to Pennsylvania because I saw what the housing market was down in D.C. and I was like, I'm not paying $500,000 for a row home, so I said I could probably go up north and live like a king and work at Walmart if I need to. So that's how it landed me in York City, and ever since then, been moving around. Met the gentleman that's here in Harrisburg. We did a lot of work with them in different situations, and just creating equity for people in the community and helping people become businessmen. Echo is a product of that. He had a music store just like Conrad did out in York, and I helped him kind of get that together. So, and then from there, just spiral. And then, 2016, we met at Leadership York, which is a leadership organization where people that come through York, they teach you about what's going on in York, who's who in York. Me and him met. My wife was going through that program, and met him. He's from A&T. My wife's from A&T, so she immediately said, "You need to work with him." So it's
My daughter's at A&T.
absolutely
Everybody watching out there.
Absolutely. So it's just been an amazing journey ever since then. We were kind of watching each other, seeing what each other was doing individually. We had our own real estate portfolios. He was more doing a lot of stuff outside the city. I was more in the city, and then we figured if we joined together, we could probably make a bigger difference.
And so some of those differences we were talking earlier last week when we had a chance to finally meet, personally, building those portfolios or unifying those portfolios in a way where it proves to be mutually beneficial to the community at large. Talk about that. What's that's been like
Both,
for you?
we're both kind of doing our own thing again. Fred in the city, me outside, but it was the same premise of helping people who look like us get into homes. You know what I mean? So like we recognize that a lot of folks, a lot of minority people can't just walk into a bank and come out with a mortgage. You know what I mean? So I was looking at people who are in distressed situations, being able to come and help them dispose of their property without damaging effects of foreclosure or bankruptcy or whatever. And then I had a list of people who had money, but again, had financial hardships or credit history issues where they could not get a mortgage. So I was kind of taking the property over here, helping these folks, coming over here, helping these folks, and marrying it together. And just the feeling, the excitement of like, man, I'm helping people create, their little slice of the American dream, made me feel good. And so I kind of followed what he was doing. And I'm just like, man, if we ever combine forces, man, we'd be like freaking, Galvatron out here. So,
I think we saw that just with our portfolios, having that equity within ourselves, and people knew who I was, community, because a lot of the community stuff that I was doing, and I wanted to pull Anthony in as well, and assist him with meeting some of the people, the stakeholders that's in the city, and it's just been off and running. My portfolio was rentals. I was doing affordable housing, so I was trying to help people in the community, and also had a couple commercial properties as well. I have a minority in that business called Skillet the Plate as well. They're a minority only soul food place down in York right now. So, and they just opened up another an event space down in York. So this is the things that we like to do. Right. We like to see that. We like to see that we help the business and they're, spawn off and growing and growing and growing. That's the satisfaction we get from helping people.
So shout out to Skillet the Plate. We will have our next meeting in York there.
Absolutely.
So we'll our original meeting, but we won't even mention where we met. We're gonna shout out Skillet the Plate. for our next meeting, which tells you that there will be more meetings coming. So what we're looking forward to doing, we talked about the Diversity Coalition, which 2 members, of course, here that's helped build this, is ultimately empowering Central Pennsylvania as a whole, and then the state. And so that's part of the reason why, wanted to make sure that we talk. And so, and of course, shout out to Fulton Bank and John Easter for putting us together.
Advocate in New York as well.
Yeah. So what we want to do is talk about a vision that you all had in terms of unifying that led you into now being minority owners of a baseball team. I mean, did you see that coming? Where the heck did that come from?
Not even closely, like nowhere. I mean, it was kind of cool though, right? So again, Fred's big into both him and I are both big into helping other startup business, minority business get started, right? So I have a trucking business. Started it right in the middle of the pandemic, which was really cool. Put several drivers to work, when they kind of lost their jobs initially, when people were trying to figure out what's essential, what's not. And so people were looking at that. Fred's obviously been here a lot longer, been in the community well. I guess I kind of started coming in and people were like, okay, well, can you be on this board? Can you be on that board?
Right.
We need some, back like what you said, right? Yeah, and shout out to this man here because he's the one who made diversity inclusion a buzzword. You know what I mean? So like now that's something that is near and dear to everybody's heart. And so, shout out to York Revolution because again, they kind of watched what Fred and I were doing. It's like, hey, look, we recognize that our leadership team is not indicative or reflective of our community or our fan base. We see what you all are doing, what you represent, and we like to extend the opportunity for you guys to join our leadership team. And Fred and I were kind of looking at each other like, let's think about it. Yes. You know what I mean? It was like an instant thing. So it was just.
I mean, you can't just give in too quick. Let's play coy a little bit.
We kind of looked at each other like, ain't nothing to talk about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we thought that it would be beneficial to the community to see some Black minority owners. I think that the York Revs knew that it would bring them closer to, because a lot of times they don't include us, so
that's right.
and they don't respect our dollars. I'm just saying in whole, and I think that Eric Menza, shout out to Eric and Jules for recognizing that. Hey, look, this doesn't reflect the whole community,
right?
And with Fred and Anthony's traits into the city, we know that will help and assist with making it friendlier to the community, and they have been. I've been making a lot of things happen. Kwame, as I was telling you, is a brand ambassador, so I've been bringing a whole lot of minorities over there to represent and make sure that their creativity is respected.
Right.
They've allowed me to do that. Allowed me to bring more people over there. The DJ now is over there.
Shout out DJ Pretty.
Shout out DJ Pretty. So we're making a major impact, and we have to in order for the community to believe it.
Right. So if the York Revolution can have DJ Pretty, Harrisburg Senators can have DJ Smitty. So what we're going to say is,
but you know what, Karl? That's the reason why we did it that way. We want other baseball teams to see that. Okay, they got a brand ambassador. Why don't we have one?
Right.
So I think, and I talked to Kwame, I talked to Eric, and I said, listen, I want Kwame to go out on the road, and so that other teams can see what that brings, that value that brings to your team and to your community. So we hope that the Senators get on board. If they want to reach out to us, they can. To figure out how they can get some diversity in their ball club. I don't know if y'all go to the games, but no.
Well, I'm traumatized by baseball. I missed the ball. It went through my legs when I was young. I jumped the fence and ran home. So I know. My mom and I told my son that's 3. He doesn't let me lay that down. But yeah, so I sold Littman's out of Southeast. I sold us out. We could have went to the city. I'm traumatized. Let's take a commercial break. No, but seriously,
if they want to consult us and figure out how to get the community involved, I think it would be beneficial to the ball club.
Agreed. And what we'll do is we'll push that from this angle. We'll push that from this direction.
And cool is that I'm not saying it's because of Fred and I, but
you can say take credit. Look, it's cool to take credit.
But we've been seeing, and we're kind of looked at the reports. I mean, attendance has been up, sessions have been up, diversity amongst the fan base has been up. So it's kind of cool to kind of see the impact that it's happening.
So another side to that is when you're talking about the diversity and equity and inclusion, when those contracts go out for vendors, I'm sure the vending spaces in that stadium will start to look be a bit more reflective of the community as well. Or having YouTube, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the gift that keeps on giving.
Absolutely.
And what's cool is they have packages now where it's like you don't have to commit to the whole season. They're like, hey, come check out 10 games. Come here's a vendor space for you. See if you like. It's a profit sharing type scenario. So, I mean, the York Rebs have really put their money where their mouth is.
Okay,
Absolutely.
And
D&I.
not only that, it's so many different opportunities. People, the ballpark is open 365 days a year. So baseball ain't going on. So you got to rent spaces.
Mm-hmm.
You need, people can market their businesses there. They have seats, and minorities went in on that as well.
Right.
I have plenty of calls where I've been directing people to them and ensuring that, and I spoke about this, that we get handled with care. We don't want. I can't come out here and talk to the community and then it be a different at the office. So I'm always on top of that because my word on the city is it means something. And if I say, hey, listen, go talk to this person, but they're not treating you with the respect and care, then the city's gonna look at me like, hey, I tried and
I agree. You can't shake hands with a closed fist.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't extend a hand and is met with a closed fist on the other end.
Absolutely.
So that's a great point. And on that, we'll take a commercial break. And on the other side of this, we'll continue our dialogue with Mr. Fred Walker and Mr. Anthony Moore. All right. Hello and welcome back. Of course, we are here continuing our conversation with Mr. Anthony Moore and Fred Walker. We were talking during commercial break, which we thought is important, about having that robust conversation around what it means to actually be in the room. Because, well, yeah, what does it mean to be in the decision-making room? How beneficial has that been for you all?
It's vital. It's like having a seat at the table, which is where we're at. You know what I mean? And having that seat at the table is important because there's a lot of information that's flowing that does not trickle down to the minority community. So, for instance, you hear about grants and stuff like that. Our community be scared or don't know about the grants. I went around, and shout out to YCEA, Kevin Schreiber. Kevin Schreiber as well. He wanted to. I talked to them. I said, we really need to hit the pavement and figure out where all of these barbershops and salons. This is during the pandemic. We need to go, and they need to see me. And it has to be a trust relationship there, and so they see Fred Walker. They know I'm a successful businessman. They're like, okay, I trust Fred. I may not trust this guy over here because I don't know what's on the back end of what he's trying to get me to do. So it's it goes hand in hand. So it's definitely we wouldn't have known about those grants that the county commissioners was bringing, and I think that our community needs to get more involved and understand the flow of where money is at and how it trickles down. And come to those meetings, those city councils meetings, those county meetings, because that's where a lot of stuff is going on,
right?
And that's where you want your voice heard at. So we have to have somebody at the table to trickle that.
So we had a lot of outreach. Like we were, in terms of the diversity coalition, we were blessed through the pandemic, believe it or not, because it gave us an opportunity to reach into areas like York and to show our worth in our book of business, if you will, in terms of helping minority organizations, minority owned and controlled organizations, which is key, not pass-throughs. So one of the things that stood out to me was that the barbershops and beauty salons and bars or whoever, they were not aware, to your point, they were not aware of how to properly engage the PPP, EIDL, et cetera, those resources. And so we actually were reaching out because since we're statewide. I can't. Is it Ritter? Yeah, Dixon. Yeah. Correct. With her and others, there was contacts, and of course, shout out to one of our founder members, former mayor of Hanover, Monica Ojo.
Shout out to her. Absolutely.
Former mayor, but who knows what the future holds. But Monica Ojo is someone who continuously pushes diversity, equity, inclusion throughout York County and throughout the state, for that matter, as a part of the Pennsylvania Diversity Coalition and the Turnpike Commission. Those individuals are very astute to what's going on, and they don't mind sharing, much like yourselves, and or calling individuals out. So when individuals, and I know Monica, just hands down, Sandra Thompson and others, Sandra Thompson, I'm sorry, and others that are down there that are fighting the fight in terms of having equitable access to resources. Now, once that equity is presented, the other side is how do we make sure that these institutions are not meeting those individuals seeking resources with a closed fist.
Right.
And that's where our unification comes in at, our unifying comes in at, to make sure that not that you're going to get anything that you don't deserve or you're getting a handout or anything like that, but that you have an equitable access to these resources. So talk about what this been like to be at that table and how you've been able to inform people.
I mean, it's been great because to talk about it, right? So we always we hear things, right? So you hear, the system and the man and this, that, and the other, right? And typically, to be perfectly brutally honest about it, it's typically black people talking about white people and the establishment and things that have been set up in the past, red lines and all that stuff that absolutely 100% exists, right? Mm-hmm. Now, when you trickle that down over history, you've got these are now the great grandkids, slave owners or whoever the case is. And these folks are, in some cases, in most cases, now like, we had a great run. Now we want to make sure that, the institutions and systems that were put in place to keep you down, we do our part to remove that, right? And so you've got a lot of folks who've been reaching out to Fred and I. Again, he mentioned a few, Jules, Aaron, Eric, too many to really name at this point, that have not only been saying, hey, look over here. You did not know. Actually, let me go ahead and open this door for you. Matter of fact, let me open this door for you and pull a seat out for you to sit at this table. And not only let me do that, but let me tell you exactly what to say so that these people can hear you so they can put resources in front of you, right? Mm-hmm. There's an example. Just last week, we applied for, some funding through one of the institutions down in York. And literally, the CEO of that institution had a sidebar with us and said, hey, this is a committee. This is on the committee. This is what you need to say in order to present your case, make your slides concise, focus on the financial viability of the program, of the project to pay itself back, and go say this. We followed that script, and bada bing, we got approved for it, right? So it's like it's important for people to understand that, yes, these things did happen. No one's minimizing that. No one's delegitimizing any of that, but tide is turning. There's so much synergy. There's so much energy. There's so much momentum behind seeing these minority businesses succeed. And now, not only is it not enough to just be at the table, but now you got to know what to say. And so that's shout again to John Easter over at Fulton Bank, because he's going to give us some information that's going to be very valuable to our community. Why are we being denied for mortgages? Not only why are we being denied, but what is the criteria? What is it that we need to do? What kind of curriculum do we need to set up so as people go through these programs that ABCD is checked off? Right. Now, if ABCD is checked off and everything checks out and we get denied, now, to your point, we got to bust some doors down. There you go. So to answer your original question, to be at the table, to be actually able to influence some of this policy and things that's going to make our community stronger, it just is no better feeling.
Yeah. And that's the other piece is, there's one thing to be given a title that we've all had over the years. And I say this a lot when, ever since the Brother Floyd murder, there's been these organizations and institutions coming up with these social equity titles or, these statements and so forth and so on. But as I always say, if that position doesn't come with a budget, a staff that's commensurate with both the budget and your decision-making powers, then it's all for naught. But what I'm hearing us agree on is that it's not only good enough to be quote unquote at the table, but to have decision-making power and influence and engagement with those resources in order to bring back to our community, or at least to show our community that here's what's out here, here's what's available, and here's the blueprint to engage in them and obtaining them.
And the other part for me, there have been people in the past that have had a seat, and sometimes we don't have the right person.
There you
at
go.
The table.
There you go. Preach.
To bring the resources back. Some people are just about self. So you have, and I think that the good thing about how we were selected in these particular situations is because they watched us for about a year and wanted to know what our impact, our influence, and all those different things are, and what are we doing, what are we actually doing on our own for the community, and you can validate that. Again, like I said, I help businesses. He helped businesses So you have to have the right personality there that's going to bring those resources to the community and help and want to help each person. Because if you don't have the right person, they just in there for stuff and they taking up space.
Well, I don't know if you heard the first. Well, you heard a little bit of the first segment we did with Judge Morris, and we hone in on that all the time. It's not good enough to, and I believe, and I'll paraphrase, and I'm going to butcher it, but Mr. Ron Brown, who probably a lot of people say should have been the first Black president of the United States, right here locally, family locally here in Stilton, talked about your role once you reach success. It's not good enough for you to obtain this quote unquote success by yourself or for yourself, but that's where the work just begins. You now have to let the ladder down so that others can follow and you show them the way. And so I always, I'm reminded, and of course I butchered it and trying to paraphrase it, but the great, God rest his soul, Mr. Ron Brown, Secretary Ron Brown, has always talked, that has always burned and seared in my memory.
That's my first time hearing that, but definitely, I think that's valuable to do. And as we elevate to those positions, it's important for us to send that ladder back down.
And I just think you leave the door open, you let the ladder down, keep it down, for those individuals that at least have access to knowing that there's other opportunities out there. And then if nothing else, it holds you accountable.
Right.
Because if you're there, we're all human, born in sin, and we make decisions that aren't always the best, and sometimes we can be self-consumed. And so in order to have your mom and your grandma ain't gonna always be around, because they'll always check you. They will always check you, or your significant other.
His mom does it all the time.
Yeah.
She came to the game checking me.
So it don't be caring who around.
Yeah. Oh, no, it don't.
be
It don't. We all, it all goes down. But no, just anything. What has been some of your? We talked about the greatness in terms of having access and being there. What have been some challenges that the two of you face? So everything's been great gravy.
No, I wouldn't say it's all gravy. I think that it's challenging navigating on both sides. There's an expectation from the community. There's accountability from the community aspect. People feel like, oh, you're not helping us, or I think that also the challenge, and I expect it to come at some point, is with Facebook and Instagram and all these different things. The one time you're not able to help somebody, they're gonna say, "Oh, he not helping us," and they're not gonna tell you the real true story, that they're not ready, or they want you, and that's the one thing about our community. So a lot of people will come with these great ideas, but they want you to do it for them and bring it back. I don't have that time, Karl.
Right.
You want me to go and get your certifications, bring it back to you so you can do construction work? Come on now. So and it's a lot of that.
You're right.
And it weighs you down as a person. You want to help as many people as you can, but come to me with a plan.
That's right.
Come to me ready to to put it out there. So
give me something to work with.
Give me something. So I think a lot of those situations occur. I don't know what else.
Nah, man. Fred's always kind of looking out community wise to figure out how to maneuver and whatnot. He's definitely the man when it comes to that. I personally don't care. I have blinders on. I've got objectives and goals, and whoever's in the way is collateral damage. But for me, like, I think
shout out to a balanced team in the house.
It's the perfect yin and yang. We always say we're streets and sweets. You know what I mean? It's like it's cool, but like the challenges that I know,
because you're a numbers guy though. You got to say so. He's not empathy. He has empathy and compassion. Everybody, shout out to him, or he wouldn't be here. But he's a numbers guy, and that's what it boils. That's what he says when he's tunnel vision. And those numbers guys, you have to be. You got to be numbers. Yeah.
And to your point, like I've grown personally because I used to be a little too overly empathetic. But I look at the numbers and look at the situation, like, and the next thing you know, it burned me. But what I see, like, kind of what we're kind of growing through is the growing pains, man. So, like, we've got Four Squares Development. We just founded Four Squares Construction. We're starting on the project. So figuring out again, right now we're wearing the HR hat, the finance hat, the accounting hat, the business development hat, all the hats right now. And it's continuing to grow. We're bringing people in, managing projects. Now we're managing other people's money, which you got to be even more fine-toothed and accountable for. So that's kind of the challenge that I see, man. Just trying to get the right people to grow with.
Gotcha. No, hands down. I see that. All right. So what we'll do is we'll take another quick commercial break, and on the other side of this, we'll have some closing thoughts and from our guests here, and then maybe talk about some things that you have on the horizon in the future to make us aware of, where we all can be supportive of one another throughout the Central Pennsylvania region. So again, you're joining us live here at the seat at the table with our guests out of the York area, Mr. Fred Walker and Anthony Moore. All right, and we're back again. Shout out, I'm not that popular. I will accept your Facebook request. I didn't even see it. Sometimes, people come up. I'm like, geez, But no, as we close out, we oftentimes don't see brothers coming together, we and sisters coming together. But we talked before, as when we first met, about co-opetition.
I
And
love
so,
that word. I never
you
heard
know,
it before, man.
Yeah.
But that I love
yeah.
it.
So that co-opetition, the way we look at it is we all come together doing the best. To your point, your tunnel vision on those numbers. You understand the community, the needs. You're more so out there. That's your stick. But when you come together, you can bring the best product to the community based on needs, based on resources, and that void. And that's what we look at here, with Music Man Multimedia Studios. Three of us coming together to simply say, we know we need an alternative media outlet. We know we need to make sure we're getting our message out there, our meaning minority, underserved, underrepresented, and undereducated communities that typically look like us, that we have a balanced approach to making sure that the truth with a capital T is put out there by us, for us, and on behalf of our people. So as we close out, we want to talk about whether or not there's some upcoming endeavors that you all are working on, that you might need assistance with or support for. And if so, maybe you can talk about some of those now, or just however you like to close out.
Yeah, I'll start some of those. Anthony, finish out. So we have, of course, Anthony talked about our development company. We are developing a whole entire neighborhood on the west end of New York. We have about 3 properties that we're working on now, that we're going to be breaking ground probably in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
So we're continuously getting. I mean, we're looking for minority contractors. If you guys got some, send them our way. Construction, um, everything that's we want that input from minorities.
Okay.
That's what it's about. That's why we developed this company, so that we can get people from the neighborhoods, from the areas who have these construction companies or these mom and pops. If they're not ready yet, well, we want to at least meet them and help them scale up, get their businesses to a point where they're ready. Because what's going to happen is we're going to start bidding on these big contracts,
Mhm.
and we want all the minority contractors to be ready
Mhm.
to scale up and be ready to take on those projects.
Right.
And we want to bring them with us. That's what this was all about. So we have that development. We have a couple other projects that we're working on within the city. We're looking for other projects. They don't got to be in the city. It could be anywhere else.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think what else I want that we can talk about.
I talked about wanting to expand up into Harrisburg too. That's part of the reason why you're here.
Yeah.
So
We're not close to it, but like right now, the thing that separates us from other development companies is that we're literally focusing on one block at a time.
gotcha.
So we're literally looking to right now the home ownership percentile in the block that we're focused on is 39%.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at that same block, the crime statistics are high, the median income level is low, and so we feel as though through home ownership, education, financial literacy training, we can get that up to at least 50-50. You can
Mhm.
see a good sustained block providing jobs through our construction company. So not only are we looking for contractors, we're looking for people to grow with. So
Mhm.
professional services,
Mm-hmm.
accounting, legal,
Yeah.
finance, and all these other hats. We're becoming a legitimate business. We're growing fast. I mean, there's all sorts of projects that people are asking us to bid on,
Mhm.
and granted, it looks on the surface like we got everything under
Hey.
the cover, but like
They
it's
don't
like a
know
duck,
if you
man.
don't. Underneath is paddling.
We
Yeah,
paddle
feet
like
are moving.
struggling to save a life. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like it's a great problem to have.
Mhm.
But look, we're just looking for good people we can grow with.
But I like that model. That one block anchor project to then expand beyond. Within those communities. But you have that anchor project right there. So that's a great model.
So it's keeping us accountable. That'll keep us accountable. Make sure that we increase. We have some objectives that we're trying to grow, like you said, the crime We have other partners within the city that's assisting us as well. So we're looking for great people. I mean, the right people, the right personalities. Again, it got to, just like you guys, it got to be the right people that comes together as a team and we'll be able to expand a lot more. So I'm looking forward to it. I appreciate you guys inviting us up.
Well, definitely.
Definitely. I've known those guys for years and just doing things. So, it's always been a corridor to be up here and visit. I got properties up here as well, so I'm always around. But I think we need more stuff like this. What's his name? Preston Dent.
Oh yeah.
Preston is a good friend of mine. Me and him do a lot of stuff community-wise together to bring York and Harrisburg together. And I think we need that division has to stop. They had an issue years ago with the basketball teams.
Yeah.
And we wanted to do a celebrity basketball game to let people know, get out of this mentality about this is your block, this is your hood, and this is that. I'm able to maneuver between different cities, Lancaster, Harrisburg, and not have to worry about it and have friends in each part.
Right.
You guys, the younger generation, y'all need to understand that as well.
Exactly.
Take advantage of that and stop limiting yourself to just your block.
That's right. And the whole thing is when you give or go after the entire pie instead of fighting over that one particular piece, that opens up a wide spectrum. And, people, and I'll end my piece and let you guys, close out what you like to end with. A lot of times we talk about the crabs in the barrel syndrome, but very seldom do we ask the profound question of who bought the barrel to put the crabs in.
Love that.
And so from that perspective, I think opportunities like this for us to share with one another, for us to have our own platform that's Black owned and controlled, in which we tell our own stories, ask our own questions, and seek out desirable answers that meet our needs. I think we propel our future generations in the direction, at least, to which they are more than willing, able, and capable to aspire to reach their greatness and beyond. So with that, that's my closing. I'll turn it over to you two good brothers.
What we really need is for music man multimedia to come down to York and cover this story.
But hey, we're mobile. You took that out of my mouth.
Man,
we're mobile.
I think what we're working on right now is going to be monumental. I think it's actually going to catch a national stage at some point. I've been telling him for a while that that's why I record everything. Everybody always jokes because I got my phone up and stuff, but it will not surprise me one bit when HGTV or A&E or somebody like that come knocking about what we're doing down here in New York City.
Well, you sound like the brothers. Honestly, shout out to Craig and Conrad and Chad Scott. Because we talk about our vault that we're building, that we have in terms of the content
archives,
and we're just waiting for somebody to come and knock, and so it'd be great for them to knock and we come simultaneously with answers.
Absolutely. He always talk about that. He talks about that all the time, and I was more behind the scenes, doing things and helping and assisting, and finally came to the forefront. So I think it's important to document. Again, it's good to have those roles because that's not my role. I ain't the TV guy, I ain't a Facebook guy. I get it done. I'm the person that goes to the room, get the work done, and get the results. And he does too. But
so how'd you get him on camera? Because I gotta use this in order.
I just threw it right in his face. Like, all right, man, here we are.
That's how we should do these dudes. That's how. All right, I got it. I got it.
Shout out to Tanya Larry. Tanya Larry gave me my first interview with the Movement. The Movement is another grassroots organization down in York. She did that. She was interviewing somebody, and she said, "Fred, your voice needs to be heard. You're doing a lot." And that was Echo's cousin, who he introduced me to. She knew the work that I was doing. He knew the work I was doing. He said, "Man, people need to see who you are.
Gotcha.
Because you're making a lot of things happen in New York." So that's who the first person, and then he threw the second camera on me. So, I've been out in front ever since then.
There you go. So to your point earlier, we are going mobile. So you'll either be our first or second stop once we decide to send the cameras out.
That'll be.
So I can't thank y'all enough for joining us. Good brother.
Yeah, thanks for having us, man. Really appreciate it.
Shout out to Harrisburg. Thank you.
And York as well, Central Pennsylvania as a whole. And with that, we'll just thank our viewers and, of course, our control room, Craig and Conrad and Chad Scott, who always makes us look good here. Thank you, of course, to our viewers on YouTube as well as on Facebook. We'll see you next time here or Seat at the Table, hosted by yours truly, Karl Singleton. We'll see you next time.